Other changes, well, they changed. Nikita clearly listens to ScavTalk because they changed the ACP AP craft
Damn you.
to make it, rather than being entirely pointless, it is now very slightly less pointless, but still entirely pointless.
Damn it. Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a continuing focus on development of the game, patch note analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I'm one of your hosts. I am a video editor for a Tarkov YouTuber named Airwing Marine.
I'm Gigabeef, a Tarkov YouTuber who really needs to get his hair cut. Dude, when do people find time to actually cut their hair? Like it's actually insane at the moment. I think especially when people do a lot of stuff from home too. Just like, when do you get the time to go out and get it done? You know, it's just impossible. But anyway, welcome back to the show. And how's your week been, Church?
It's been good, man. It's been good. To comment on your intro, I was gonna say you haven't learned the prolific skills of COVID cutting your own self COVID haircuts. Have you done that? Have you cut your own hair? I guess you got your wife, so maybe she could
exactly.
help.
So she actually does do it. She does cut my hair.
Oh, okay.
But it's just like even then, like actually, there's no real excuse there.
Yeah,
But even
no.
then, just like trying to find the time when like between the baby and everything else, just like she's busy or she's doing something and I'm doing stuff in here, or like we've got this tonight, or whatever. It's just it's amazingly difficult to find the time and squeeze it in to do it. It is a lot more efficient though than going off to the actual hairdressers and having to try and awkwardly make conversation, and they're asking how your day's gone, and you'd really rather not be there.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
Yes.
You know how it goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I can totally relate to finding the time because I've like cut my own hair since COVID kind of started. And sometimes you just like God, I do not really want to spend the time like tediously trying to cut it and then whatnot and like make sure it looks right. So you just do like a quick cut, and then the next, you take a shower and you get out, and the next day you wake up and you got like some hairs you missed around your ears just like sticking out. Like, what was I thinking? Good thing no one saw me because I never leave my house. But anyways.
That's one benefit.
Yes. Dude, I've been doing that LightHouse shenanigans, man.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, doing the LightHouse quest. I think I got like 80% of them done. I have to mark these 2 last tanks that are like, actually I think I just gotta mark 1, but it's like dead center in the middle of the road camp. And then like kill scavs on the road or like in the cottage, or there's I think just killing.
Those ones are tricky.
Yeah, like the one on the road, I don't think it's too bad. You just have to like find a good spot and just sit there and camp for the raid and just shoot AI scavs or player scavs, because I have noticed AI scavs do walk from like the village area to the road. Excuse me, but yeah, it's interesting because now that I've got to play the map and sort of like got a feel for it, now I have Red Rebel, and then you could take that extract open, which is kind of nice, kind of like a looting extract in a way. Some raids I've just like spawned almost at the extract, so I'm like, I'll loot this house that it's right next to, or like this cottage or whatever, and then just get out. But man, dude, I had this one raid that was insane. So I had my Scar, which I want to like talk about later, but and I'm like, mission, go to the road camps and plant, do some crazy insane tasks,
Yeah.
So I'm spawned like all the way on the opposite side of the map. So I'm like, oh, I gotta make my way there, blah blah blah. So I'm walking, I'm like scouting it out, and this map is scary, dude, because it's like woods in a way, because there's just like sight line from sight line from sight line, like every angle. It's like it's essentially 2 giant hills / mountains and a valley in the middle. That's the road. And then and that's like the map for like 90% of the way. And then you have the road camp, and then like on the half side of the map on the road camp, there's like this giant mountain that people can snipe from. So it just the maps like these kind of like, I don't typically like them because I just constantly feel exposed, and when you get shot at, it's like, oh my god, where do I go? Do I run this way? Am I running towards them and getting shot? Like it's a nightmare. So anyways, I'm on the rocks and I'm looking, and I hear footsteps behind me on top of the rocks. I'm like, oh God. And I don't just hear one footstep, I hear multiple footsteps. So I'm like, oh dear God, this is it. I'm gonna lose everything, you know. I'm just sitting here crouched, like, dear God, please don't peek this corner and like a 5-man just pop up. So I slowly start creeping away, and I'm like trying to crouch walk to get a little like break line of sight of them. And as I'm like rearing the corner, the guy comes over the rock and he's just like running. And I'm like, dear God, don't see me, don't see me. Let me just get behind this cover. So then I see all three of them and they're all up there. And then they start shooting at someone else. So I'm like,
Okay.
all right, now I got it. Now I got to take my chance, you know. So I mow down the first guy. I couldn't see his head, so I just had to like mow him down. Immediately as that happens, like, okay, rat mode, engage. Just, you know, get out of dodge. Let me go ride. You know, I was thinking about doing a flank, but when I went down the mountain, there was the tunnel where the scav and PMC extract was.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let me get inside of a building. This is what I like. There's no, you know, it's so I go inside the extract essentially. I have one sight line, that's it. So I'm just sitting there waiting. Well, sure enough, they start coming down, the two guys. One guy, I didn't peek the door, so he ran past the door, and he was on the, I guess, like, deeper in the tunnel. It doesn't really lead anywhere, but he was there. And so he voips to me, he was like, "Come on out, we know you're in there." I'm like, "Oh god, dude, I'm gonna get impact grenaded, I just know it." As soon as he finishes that, he checks his mag. So I was just like, "Alright, fuck it, I'm gonna just push." So I push out, I kill him, hit fire spray, run back in. I'm just like, at this point, the nerves are like at an all-time high. You know, I still get jitters playing Tarkov, but then the next guy, he's fighting, or he's like trying to peek into the tunnel, but I'm stepped outside the doorway, and I look out. I did some shenanigans to get him off the angle, I guess, but maybe he
Yeah.
wasn't ever on there. So I'm left side peeking, and I got my scope because I brought a vortex or a new optic. And I'm just watching the angle like a hawk, and then he like just barely peeks, and boom, headshot, got him. Go loot them all. They're juiced out of their minds, you know, like meta AKs. One guy he had the first guy I killed, he had the airframe on with like the
Yeah.
chops and the visor, like all kitted out.
Mhm.
Well, I put it on. As I put it on, I noticed the breathing is like so loud because
Yeah.
I'm Bear. I think it's louder on Bear. Forget which Bear voice line,
Is it the
but
one it sounds like you're hurt?
it just sounds like just the biggest neckbeard breathing into his microphone. Like it's so loud. You can't distinguish it. If you heard a bush, you probably couldn't hear it next to you. Like a bush rustler,
Oh.
you probably couldn't hear it. It's insanely loud. Like I wouldn't just say it's him hurting, but it's very loud. Anyways, it's so loud. But I'm constantly like I'm like, God, do I wear the visor or I take it off so I can hear? Because even when you take it off, the sound still plays for like 2 seconds and then it
Yeah.
slowly tails off. So I constantly switch back and forth. I'm making my way. I'm trying to get to the Red Rebel extract, but I'm at the cottage and I hear something. So I take off my visor. Then I hear the guy run away. He starts shooting. I wait for a little bit. I'm like, okay, let me just get the extract of all this loot because I'm like, I'm full of all these guys' loot. Like the guy brought M995 in one of his in AK
Wow.
mags. Yeah, like these guys were chatting it up. So I'm go to the extract. I put down my visor like in case I get shot in the face. I'm on my way there. Boom, I die. Head ears. The guy was probably right next to me, and I didn't see him or hear him at all. He just one taps me with M856A1. But you know, I got to ditch all my stuff and take out.
Yeah.
So
Oh
I'll
man,
get
that
that sub
sucks
out.
though. That sucks. Well,
It
that happens, right?
sucks, but it's
Tarkov.
like it's it's such a. It was what really messed me up was the visor and face show because I felt like if I
Yeah.
just took it off, I probably would have heard that guy. Maybe even saw him too because the visors kind of mess with the clarity of it. But
And that's the thing
otherwise,
as well, right? It's like you get head ears through the chops with 56A1. You're like, okay, well, I've got this 200K helmet on. and I just get one shot through the ears anyway because it's class 3.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's tough. It's tough, right?
yeah, yeah.
So well, see, that's the thing too, is I don't know if it's a bug or if it's got to be a bug, but I thought there was a way you could bypass that if you assemble the helmet in your stash and then put it on and then load an array, like you won't get the breathing
I'm
because
not
that.
sure if that's still in the game. I don't know actually. I can't remember. I think that was like I actually don't remember if that was patched or not. I feel like it was patched, but maybe not. Because I used to load in all the time with
Mhm.
TC800s with the face shield on, and you just didn't hear it until you lifted it and put it back down again. You didn't hear it at all, and it was great. I'm actually not sure if that was still the case. I don't really. It's funny. I don't really remember because I used the Kiver and the other one, the ZSH, a little bit, and I don't really remember it being a massive problem then. So I'd have to go and check. I can't actually remember whether they done that or not.
Yeah, that's one of my
Interesting one.
favorite bugs in the game. I love that bug so much.
Yeah.
Please don't remove it. Because, dude, it's really annoying too for Bear. Because I've heard people say, you play Bear? How do you deal with the breathing? Like back when face shields were like omega common because the economy at the time, Bitcoin was insane and everything. People just had money, didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
But I never really liked face shields. And maybe that's because of the breathing feature. And I get it's like I understand it's sort of a trade off, like a way to balance it, but it's so loud, dude. So loud. I don't know how it is for you, Sec, but it is so loud for Bear.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought it was that bad because I've heard someone else's Bear problems with the breathing, and it's nothing like that on USEC at all. It's never really been that problematic. I mean, the breathing it's never bothered me that much. I'd rather not have it if I can help it. But what used to bother me back in the day was the grubbiness of the visor. And I think they made them cleaner at one point a while
Mm.
back. And I just hadn't used them for ages. And then I tried one day and I was like, oh, it's actually all right. It's fine. And then I used them, yeah, in that crazy patch where everyone had tons of money. I just used them non-stop.
Mhm.
But no, it's funny. I don't know. It's weird that there's that bear bug for breathing. It's strange. You'd think that was something that would be easy to fix because
Well, is it
it's
a bug?
disproportionately affecting people. Well, it must be, yeah, surely. Because I
Well,
think it's
see,
certain voice lines. I think you might be able to change the voice line because you can change the voice line now, I believe,
oh, you
to a different
can?
voice.
Okay.
So maybe
I'm
try
gonna
that.
try that. Yeah, I'm gonna
And
try
this is
that.
I don't know. This is not tested and
Sure.
strict fixes, but maybe give it a go. Maybe you're on the bugged voice line. I'm not sure.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah.
So for you, what you been up to?
Yeah, so I've been doing a random mix of stuff. I've still been trying to min-max my XP a bit
Uh,
because I've been spending a disproportionate amount of time like making content. And so when I've been playing, I've actually been using I was trying to get to Sniper 3. So I've been using the VPO 215 still. And I've made a lot of 366 videos recently because I made one about the
yes,
209 and
I
it's
saw
quite
that.
nice to continue using the 366 AP actually. And I really do think that the 215 is such a great gun. It's so good for doing Tarkov shooter because you one tap all the weak scavs and you do so
Yeah.
much damage to other people. I actually killed a surprising number of PMCs. I was playing like really chilled. I only want to see people towards the end of the raid, sit in the bush, go and do something else kind of style while I'm doing other things to try and maximize the time. And it's amazing actually that once I started roaming around the map, the people who are stragglers or going from place to place and you bump into them. And there was one dude who he had 56A1 and MDR or something, and I just no scoped the guy at point blank with the VPO. It's like it's quite interesting. It's worked much better than I would expect in situations where I really should have died.
Hmm.
It all started off when I was playing Woods. This is actually probably 3 weeks ago now, but I killed a duo on top of one of the sets of rocks. They were down on the ground and they were trying to jump up, and I was up there already because I was looking over the scav camp, kind of in the middle, where you have to pick up that thing for lend lease near the lumber mill, and killed those two as they were coming up and stuff. I didn't end up recording it because I was not really expecting to get into big gunfights. It was it was good, but I've been doing a lot of that actually and using that gun a lot. Did finally manage to get to Sniper 3 because I hate doing it, man. I really do. But I did it eventually, and most of it was through actually shooting scavs and getting XP, and so it doesn't feel quite as bad as just
Hmm.
reload the mouse in kind of deal. So I started doing the next one, doing the scavs at night. Got 5 out of 8 in my raid, and it's quite quite fun in some ways because you put yourself into harm's way, but you've got such a cheap kit on that you don't really mind. But it's also quite exhilarating because the scavs are quite difficult when it's at
Yeah,
night, it's
you have
between
a
9 and 5 in the morning, and some of them have
mm-hmm.
got a lot of health, and there's only 10 minutes left, and you're sprinting to extract. I had one which was 8 seconds to go and things. It's kind of funny how in EFT, even you don't need to be necessarily PvPing to have kind of an exhilarating raid because you've got the clock, the AI's super mega overlord difficulty, and when you're using a bolty, it can be quite hard to kill them and
Yes.
stuff. So it can make for some quite intense raids anyway. So that's really been it. And I've done a couple of the Lighthouse raids as well with, again, the 215, trying to do some of the ones on the periphery. So running out by the by the car, getting shot by the
Oh,
sniper, and running back
yes.
to Ragman, and
Isn't
a
that
couple of the
quest
others picking up
awesome?
the. Oh, it is actually quite good, but only when you sort of know how to do
How
it,
to
because
do it.
otherwise,
Yes.
yeah, because otherwise it would just be, what is this?
Yeah.
And be quite annoying. But it's quite fun if you know it's coming in some ways. If it was, it'd be the best way would be if you didn't know that you were going to get shot at and that you had to run back, because they carried on shooting at me for a long time and I only just tipped over the threshold to complete it and ran back, and I was absolutely broken by the time that I got back to the other side. Like heavy bleed and two lights with three limbs blacked, and
Yeah.
gosh, I had to sit in a bush and really give
Yeah.
myself the once over to extract out of that South Road exit. But it was it's been quite fun. It's been quite fun, and there's been some massive firefights. You said there's the two hills and the road that goes through. So you've got the main hill and then the smaller hill, which is next to the
Mm-hmm.
road. I spent a bit of time on that smaller hill trying to find some scavs. I killed one or two scavs for the long road quest, but didn't find too many. But there have been some humongous firefights like just behind me while I've been waiting trying to find scavs. I could hear footsteps, loads of footsteps, thinking, gosh, I'm just going to hunker down here and do nothing. And then all hell breaks loose. It's like World War II behind me for a good 5-10 minutes. And then it's all quiet. And then you hear people skulking around, and then everyone scuttles away. There was even one with an airdrop where I tried to snipe some guy, but it was actually just really too far, and
Mm.
I couldn't land the shot. But it's been interesting. It's been kind of scrappy. I've been doing all sorts of stuff, and my stash, because I've not really been doing kitted raids. I've taken a break on Punisher 6 because I was getting really annoyed. This is when I was in my I'm dying every raid point of mode, and I got fed up of losing a full modded SVD and a big kit because I was going
Yeah.
fully kitted. So these ones have all been really cheap, light raids, no helmet even, Shamar on the top, GSSH, the 215 full of AP and an MMAC rig, and it's been a good time because you're fast, you're maneuverable, you're light, you don't lose anything when you die really. But my stash is now full of good gear, which I'm not using because I tried to do the tac barter a few times and now I've got 3 tacs. So it's been good. It's been good. It's been good. So what's been happening? What's been going on? There's been a few things. I think since last time there was actually a patch with some bits and pieces.
Yes.
I don't think there was anything too crazy. They stopped the beanie from cancelling Tagilla's
Oh,
sound
yes.
blocking thing, which people had told me about before. I'd never really used it because it was one of those things that was always going to go away. I
Yeah,
don't know
for
whether
sure.
you used it because that was pretty broken.
I didn't know about it. That was news
Ah,
to
okay.
me. So,
Somebody pointed it. It was one of those things where I knew it in the back of my head, but then forgot it. Did when I did the visors video, a few people commented saying, "Oh, with the Tagilla mask, you can do the beanie." And I thought, "Oh yeah, of course." But I'm glad I didn't put it in because it's gone now. So some of these things are quite short-lived in some ways.
yeah.
And there was one thing that they changed, which I really loved. I think it was the cursor appearing when you go into first-person mode in the hideout,
Yeah,
which is
that's so
such a
nice.
tiny, tiny little thing,
Yeah.
which I just, I don't know. I still find myself when I go into first person, I find myself tabbing into the inventory and tabbing out again. But I thought I've already built up that force of
Yeah.
habit. But was there anything else? I don't think there was too much. There was
Ah, there
a
was, like,
few other
some
things.
animation stuff that they corrected, I think, with, like, the malfunctions. The one thing that
Mhm.
was interesting was, weapon shadows with flashlights and flashlights themselves. Like, I think they introduced new bugs with this feature. I'm not sure if they fixed the 153 or yeah, 153 flashlight bug with a silencer. Because if you had a flashlight with the silence 153 and you turned it on, it might have been a particular suppressor, but I think it was any suppressor. There would just be like this giant dark shadow on the like screen, like following you around. Like, it was really distracting, really annoying. They might have fixed that, but now the MP7 has that. If it's suppressed and you have a flashlight that has a freaking shadow. And I've heard, and I want to say soft confirmation, but it's like very hard to tell without directly testing this with another person. Flashlights are showing through walls like clear as day. Like I've seen like lights go through floors and stuff like periodically. It's yeah, it's like I said, it's hard to tell because the person, we're not actively testing it. I'm just like in a raid fighting someone or hearing someone and seeing lights. So if anyone can confirm or has a video directly testing it, send it my way.
Yeah,
That'd
because
be
I thought that
interesting.
was fixed. Because it says fixed an issue causing
Right.
flashlights to go through obstacles on the patch note.
Right. And I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just what I feel like that is the case. So I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, I guess we will see.
Yes.
And then other changes. Well, they changed. Nikita clearly listens to ScavTalk because they changed the ACP AP craft
Damn you.
to make it, rather than being entirely pointless, it is now very slightly less pointless, but still entirely pointless.
Damn it.
Yeah.
He listened to the wrong part. He got the soundbite from one part. Yeah, I saw this and I was just like I think I actually face palmed.
Yeah,
It
because
was
they
just,
changed it
oh
so that
man.
now it is 59 mil 6.3s, 2 red gunpowders, and it's 7 hours and 90 minutes, and you get 100 ACP APs. Not that anybody's still ever going to do this, I wouldn't have thought. It's difficult to think.
What level is that craft? Is it level 2 craft, you know?
I actually don't know off
I
the
can
top of
pull it
my
up.
head.
It's
I
probably
don't know.
2. I'll look it up.
If you don't get it before Peacekeeper 3, then that would be really crazy.
That's kind of how I feel, but I mean, there might be we'll see. Let's see. So we go to barters, or I guess crafts actually. ACPC, will that come up? No, let's do Hawk. Okay, so it is Workbench 2, which Workbench 2 is probably going to be
Need
Mechanic.
2, which is level 20. So there's not much grace period there. Level 20, you get Workbench 2. You can do this craft for 3 levels, and then you get Peacekeeper 3 at level 23.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. I thought Peacekeeper 3 was level 28, so that's even.
Well, this is the thing. Peacekeeper is really underrated, I think, because he comes quite late in the progression, but you get the first level at level 14. Level 2, level 14 before the flea market. Which is quite cool. So you can buy M80s before you get to the flea, which I always thought was kind of interesting. The Peacekeeper's early. But then level 4 is level 37, which I don't know whether that's necessarily. It's not that early, but I think his level 2 is before. Well, I guess the others are level 15, aren't they? So it doesn't really matter. But he's level 14 for level 2. Jaeger's level 15, but then Jaeger is the earliest level 4. I think, is he 34 or 5 or something? I don't know. Around then anyway. I should know because I've just been doing that for a video, but I've immediately forgotten. But it doesn't matter. But anyway, that craft still is a bit silly.
Yeah, I mean, like, not saying it shouldn't be there because in some cases you could get locked behind Peacekeeper because you just can't find flash drives. Like, you just get unlucky, and like to craft flash drives, if your standard account, God, I feel so sorry for your soul. Enjoy spending all that money and the time doing the upgrades, but nonetheless, it's like, I'm not saying it shouldn't be there. I just what about
It's fine.
AP 6.3, man? Let's just put that back on the trader. That's more what I would love to see because God, that
exactly.
sounds so bad. Crafting taking the time to either find 50 rounds, is it 50 rounds at AP
50 rounds
6.3,
of 60,
or
yeah.
crafting it. So then you take 8 hours and then you turn it into another 8-hour craft. So 16-hour turnaround time to get 100 rounds. It's just, sounds off. And the money you throw away, you're better off rocking VPO 215s and just grinding out those shoreline tasks until you get
Exactly.
Peacekeeper 3.
Exactly. I agree. And then we had supposedly a Lighthouse loot nerf. Not that anybody knows what the numbers really mean, but this makes sense. They start with the map being completely cracked, and then over time they slowly move it back down again. I think there was somebody complaining on, maybe was it Reddit? I don't know. I saw a random post float across my social media at some point about how PSG always pumps up the loot, and then look at reserve now, it's a wasteland compared to its former self, and all of this stuff. So it's going to happen over time, and they'll balance it down as it matures as a map, and we'll see. But we've still got expansions and stuff to come for that. So there's more exciting things to come for Lighthouse in the future. But I don't know. I haven't played enough on it to really know how, if the loot's bad now or if it's still really good. It's hard to know. I still feel that when I wander around there, the loose loot is very decent. Is all I would say.
Decent, yeah.
Yeah, there's still a couple of 10k items slot.
Right.
10k item, 10k per slot items. And there's 2 on each box kind of thing. It's not out of the question to find a lot of loot very quickly, which is fine for now. And then they'll need to balance it down a bit. It is a bit like the Thunderdome, though, going to Lighthouse. Going there myself a couple of times, I did actually die approximately 3.5 milliseconds into the raid a few times, because some people play a lot, clearly. Some people know where the spawns are, clearly. And I'm not that well versed in the spawns, clearly. And this person knew exactly where I was and came over and beamed me in the head almost instantly upon loading into the raid. It's when you spawn up in the mountain range area, people really know where you are, and they know that you aren't going to go down the side of the mountain. You're going to go laterally along the map, because that's where all the cover is. And then a 3-man hits you. To be fair, I did it to somebody else as well. I spawned near, there's a broken helicopter up on the mountain somewhere near the big windy road.
Yeah.
Near the villas. And I thought, well, I need to chill because I need to go and run at the lighthouse until I get shot and then run back. And so I ran up to the back and sat in a bush. And I was doing something else, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye, I was like, oh, there's a hatchling. And I took my 2-on-5 out and one-tapped him in the chest while he tried to look into a med box. And lo and behold, this is what I put in the ScavTalk Discord. When I went over to the guy, he had 1 ruble in each of his pocket squares, so that he could instantaneously gamma anything that he found. We spoke about this months ago, and I've never seen anybody do it since. And it was quite funny. It sort of was almost annoying, because then I felt compelled to carry this stack of 4 rubles around with me, even though I had lots of other empty slots because I wasn't looting particularly.
You didn't carry the 4 rubles.
I carried the 4 rubles around because I had nothing else to put in there. I had his dog tag and then just 4 rubles. He had nothing else on him, and it was the first thing that I did in the raid. So I did it with this 4 rubles, which I didn't want to hold, but I also could not bring myself to drop. And so went back into the hideout and stashed it away with the other 14 million rubles or something.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. No, I mean, good. I think I kind of worry that I don't know. I can't say for sure. If they nerfed it because hatchlings, right? Because it used to be very popular to have hatchlings on reserve, like the drop down room. God, they would just like suicide in there to get.
Remember Lemmings, the game?
Lemmings? No, what's that?
Yeah. Oh, it's an old school game. It's like a kind of problem solver thing. The lemmings run out of a little hole, and then they go along the map, and you have to build stuff to get them to the other side. But if you don't build anything and you just let them go, they'll just fall off the edge of the cliff and then just die one after another.
I've never
played
follow
each other all off the cliff. It's cool. It's old school. It's old school.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It is old school.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like. So like, because I'm kind of upset because I watched a bunch of like Willer's videos, Landmark videos, people playing Lighthouse, and I'm like, from playing it myself at the start of the wipe, I had like a very basic understanding, and then watching it, I'm like, okay, these are the hot spots, or this is where good loot can spawn. And then I go there, I get the spawn where I'm like at the cottage, like I'm first to the building. I go to the pit, or the little bathtub where the body's floating, and there's supposed to be like Bitcoin, GP coins, a bunch of rare stuff. There's nothing there. So I'm like, dude. And then the same thing happens. I spawn at the other one, go in there. I bought these 2 USEC safe keys. I probably looted them both 3 times, not found a single item in there.
What?
Meanwhile, these guys, when they're looting, they're getting like mule stems out of there and like folders of intels, and it's just like,
King of loot, man.
well, because it's been nerfed since then, right? Like apparently it's been. I've heard that like before Logical made that post that it's been that they could feel that it's been nerfed, but anyways, long story short, rant over.
You didn't
I
update your
have not
subscription to Tarkov
found
Prime, clearly.
the best thing I found was a military cable so far. That's the
Okay,
best
I
thing I
mean,
found.
they're all right, but what are they, 80K, 90K?
On the flea market, they're 90K. Yeah, I
Yeah.
died with it, so I end up bartering for
Oh,
a broccoli.
a broccoli?
Yeah, the big couch backpack,
Oh,
the coffin, the broccoli. It's got so many
I've never heard
names,
it called.
dude.
I've actually never heard it called the broccoli ever before. This is the very first time.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first terms I've heard. Because then
Really?
I heard
Okay.
coffin. There's another one I'm missing.
The
I
coffin, the
can't.
couch, the
Yeah, the
body bag.
couch, body bag. Yeah, there's so many names.
So many. So many. Yeah, it's good.
Anywho,
No, it's good. And then, yeah, what's the other thing I think that got released today? In fact, so it'll be a few days old when this goes out on the audio task podcast. Is the fence rep tasks that the player base was really split about after the Santa thing.
yes,
Whether people who got negative scav rep from killing Santa primarily aimed at people who had done it by accident and didn't mean to kill Santa, but it's very hard to know whether it was Santa or not because some
right.
players were dressed up as Santa. He sometimes runs at you. Some of the scav bosses are dressed up as Santa in the event, and a few people killed him a couple of times, and the penalty was quite punitive. I think they made it lower as the time went on, but it was somewhere between -2 and or minus. It was even -3 at one point. Maybe it was -2, -1.5, and -1. I don't know. But some people really racked up some decent negative scav karma, and full whole points of scav karma is a really big deal, given that
Yeah,
6 is max rep. So maybe was that a little bit overdone? I think so, potentially. And there's the classic argument in the community of saying, well, you need to watch before you shoot, and other people saying, well, I play
sure,
solo, I don't normally need to. And
sure.
it wasn't necessarily that clear that that was even going to happen, to be honest.
Right. Wasn't like a
You
big
get, yeah, you get
broadcasted.
punished for a mechanic that's, you get punished for doing the thing you normally do. It's kind of the opposite way, right? It's counterintuitive, I think, is what I'm trying to say. So there was a big division about it because some people who hadn't killed Santa didn't want people to get rewarded or not have to worry about getting bad scav karma, but the people who had accidentally killed Santa who didn't mean to, but figured that it was just unfair the way that the situation was put across in the game, did want it anyway. So BSG have made their mind up and have put it in. I don't know because I don't have negative scav karma, so I can't see it. I'm just going off what I've seen so far, which is I think there's 5 tasks and I think they all give 1 scav karma each. So you can potentially go from -5 to 0, I believe, but that's still to be seen. I don't think anybody's completed all of the tasks yet that I knew of. I'm basing this mostly off Nice Guy's video today, from what he said. And no one knows really yet whether if you go positive, whether the tasks stop, whether you can carry on,
That's
or
what
if you
I'm
were
wondering.
-0.9. I think it was below -1 that you got them. So if you were -0.9, whether if you went and killed a load of people to get to -1, would the tasks appear? I imagine not, but it's very hard to know. But anyways, there's some retribution for people who killed Santa, had bad scav karma, and there's something to do for them, for what
Well,
it's
see,
worth.
I'm even wondering if the opposite's true. So, like, I have -1.7, let's say. I can't remember the number. Maybe it's like, anyways. If
Hmm.
I accepted a task, and my task is I get 1 point as my reward. and I have to kill. Damn it! I should have looked this up. Double check. It's very confusing because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But whatever. Let me not. I have to kill something, either PMCs or scavs, with an AKM, presumably as a PMC.
Yeah, I think so.
Like when I first got it, I was like, oh, for my scav, and then I thought about some more. I was like, wait, that doesn't really make sense because I accept it as my PMC, and you know, maybe I could find an AKM in Ray, but it would be very difficult. It wouldn't be the
I think it
easiest
has to
thing in
be
the world.
PMC. It has to be PMC.
Yes, but then it's like, but then it's like even more confusing because like, why am I doing a PMC task for my scav karma thing? Like, I don't know. It's just I would, yeah, that whole thing drives me up a wall because it just feels like we could be having a role playing quest that incentivizes playing a role, but instead it's like a quest that rewards me for doing this task, and the reward is something that's benefit on my PMC because I can buy stuff from Fits, even though I'm playing the role as a scav that affects it primarily. But then I can do these other things that also affect on PMC. It's just like this big convoluted web that doesn't make any sense. Like the whole thing just feels like one big sham to me. But anyways, what I wanted to test is if I level it up, my scav karma to neutral to 0, will I still have the task? And that's the interesting part to me because not that it really matters, but I don't know. It'd just be interesting if that goes away, or like you said, if it comes back.
My
If you
guess would
dip
be
back down.
yes. I think once you have my guess would be once you have the task that it's a one-time thing and never checks again what your scav karma is. I think it checks to deliver it to you, and then that's it. That would be my pure guess. So if I suddenly decided to go crazy and kill everybody, I don't think that I would get it, even if I got myself to -1. Would be my guess, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm very good. I'm actually 3.7 now or
I
something.
was gonna ask you, did you kill Santa
Yeah,
at all? We might have
I did
talked
not kill
about this,
Santa. I did not kill Santa at all. No.
but Gigabeef, you're a solo player. You should have killed him. You always shoot on sight.
Exactly. My trick is just not playing a lot. That's my trick. I know I didn't play a lot when Santa was out, so I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
actually get into any real situations where he was there. I only met him a few times. I met him, to be fair, one time where I really should have probably killed him was on Factory, but he was in a particular place that it was weird, and it made me stop and
But
go, "Who's that?"
well, see, that's the question I have for you now. Did you know about the event before that factory incident?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely, yeah,
okay,
because I listen to everything
yeah,
and everything the Nice Guy puts out and all of that stuff, and read
yeah.
Reddit too much, and I'm on Twitter too much
Gotcha,
to miss
gotcha.
that kind of thing. Usually, anyway, something that big. So no, I already knew about it, but I feel for the people who didn't know about it because it wasn't put out unless you're adamantly watching all of this stuff, like we do as a sort of broad
Mhm.
committed player slash content creators slash people who obsess about one very specific thing like complete
Yes.
crazy, then I do feel for those people who ran into the problem. But here it is, the retribution. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. So I think you get more after this one. So I think if you complete this one, you might get another. Well, you might not get another one actually, because you'll be minus 0.1 then. So that might be it for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that should be the case.
We'll see. We'll see. The other sort of interesting thing that's been going around is not well, it's not really news, but there's a few videos and a few people have been looking into it. There is seemingly a bug with the double barrel shotgun, or is it flechette rounds, or is it shotguns in general, or does it happen across lots of different weapons? No one really knows. I think there's a few theories about what
Yeah.
might be going on, but there was a couple of videos. One Erotic put out video. I think
Mhm.
he was maybe the first one who put out something big on it, and he double barrel shotgunned a couple of people in factory, and they didn't die. And then he went and tested it, at least somewhat, with 2 accounts, and basically proved that certain shots. I don't know what makes it happen, but certain shots just don't register at all. From the other, it's
Right.
not like it doesn't do any damage from the other player's perspective, you don't even fire the gun, so the shot never makes it to the server for some reason. I'm not sure really what's happening. So, and I don't know whether it's just double or single either. So there's lots of questions about this at the
Yeah.
moment, and I don't think, as far as I've seen, I don't think there are really any answers right now. But there's something happening, and some people are saying, "Oh, it's because nothing else in the game outputs as much damage as a double barrel, and it flags and registers for cheaters because it
Oh,
means you're putting out too much
right.
damage in a minuscule amount of time because nothing has ever been in the game with that level of damage output to be delivered." So it'd be like if somebody was giving out. It doesn't even make any sense though. I don't think. Anyway, so that was one theory. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one that I was seeing people talk about was just about inventory bugs and the fact that because it's loose loaded, then that might cause it to be a problem because it's not mag loaded or something. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't really know. I don't really know how to avoid it either at the moment, other than because potentially it happens to all shotguns that load in manually, but I don't feel like I've had it with the 1.5. You do seem the funny thing about the double barrel is that because the second shot is not that accurate and you never really know whether you're hitting with the shotgun anyway. I imagine a lot of these situations people chalk it up to the second shot being inaccurate / them only getting one shot and it's quite fast moving, so you never really know, and it looks like it fires on your end, so it's quite hard to troubleshoot until you go and pinpoint trying to test it. So, because I would say that I've had some situations with the double barrel, I think, I really think I should have
Mm-hmm.
at least done some damage, and you get to the end screen and you didn't no pellets connected at all out of two full shells of, let's say, Magnum Buck, for example. And you think, really, out of 16 pellets, I did not connect once? Like, yeah, maybe I didn't kill the guy, sure, but I didn't even touch him with any of the cone of shrapnel coming out of my PMC. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there have been some strange situations which some are probably just me missing, and some maybe down to this bug. I'm not sure, but we'll have to wait and see what people say about it because I don't really know. I don't really know. Maybe just stay away from shotguns for the time being if you can help it.
Yeah. It's hard to say, man, because I saw the video Rocktick
Hmm.
posted, and when he did the test, so he went offline of his second account on his second computer, and they just partied up, I guess. And he has like a
Yeah.
picture in picture where he's got his main screen and like his second account screen. And
Hmm.
so he's in factory spawn, and he blasts himself or his other account in the head, the double barrel, and he kills him instantly. And he was like, "What? That wasn't supposed to happen." Like he wasn't expecting that result,
Yeah.
which was interesting. And then he does again, and nothing happens. The guy, like, his second account lives. And I guess to like briefly explain um some of the technicalities of it or whatever, but it's like what it looks like is you shoot the guy, you see the guy flinch, but in reality, the person that's flinching on their screen, nothing's happened. They haven't been shot or anything. They don't even hear a sound. And like to me, that's usually indication of like your client is, when you're playing the game online, everything's running locally in like a client simulation, I guess you could say. I guess that's not really accurate, but the server's simulating everything together, and like when you see lag and stuff, that's like the server being like, "Oh nope, he's actually over here." You're trying to catch up and whatnot. So it's kind of a game like that. But I think some really crazy shenanigans can happen with synchronization. Dude, the bodies falling and ragdoll. Like for one person, they could totally see something completely different, like some crazy stuff like the
Yeah.
limbs being stretched. Meanwhile, it just looks the same. Stuff like
I
that's
think
interesting.
I think that's really interesting. That's almost kind of bordering into butterfly effect and chaos theory, that kind of thing, because
Whoa.
you're talking about the non-deterministic nature of certain things, and because so the chaos theory of the butterfly effect in principle is that very, very small changes in starting condition lead to wildly different outcomes. One reason why the weather is so hard to predict, for example. And that means that if imagine somebody's on the top of a cliff and on your screen, they are on one side, but they're moving, and
Hmm.
on the other person's screen or on against the server, they're on the other side. Well, depending on whose screen, they'll fall in different ways. And this was actually one problem that I remember Nikita talked about in one of his casts that he did about why advanced unconscious states and body mechanics is actually quite difficult to do, because they have to fix that synchronization problem first before you can do it. Because if people aren't synchronized as to the ragdoll effect and where the unconscious body lands, then someone's going to be dragging someone on one screen, but the body's over there on someone else's screen, and it's just a complete disaster.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting because of those small differences, as you were saying. What's on my computer and what's on your computer are both wrong, and what's on the server is gospel, but some of the stuff happens client side anyway. As you're saying, flinching, you see blood splatters that go up client side, because to have that synchronized with the server would be really weird, because you'd see your latency in the blood splattering. It doesn't make sense. That's why you think you can shoot somebody, but the server says, actually, no, you didn't, because you did get the shot off and the blood did splatter and they did flinch on your side, but they didn't on their side, and the server also doesn't think so. So there's some stuff that's client, some stuff that's not. And yeah, these synchronization things are really strange, especially when you have those moments where outcomes dramatically differ depending on tiny changes in starting condition, which is a bit of a tricky problem. But I don't know, man. It's networking magic, it's networking magic. And I don't know what's going on with the double barrel, but you should at least see it fire. And there must be something else going on behind the scenes, because the shot doesn't even take place on the other person's screen. And it's not even, that can't be a latency thing, because you can both stand there and then fires on one and not on the other, and you both stand there and continue to stand there. Nothing ever happens. So the shot just gets lost somewhere. It's just not actually occurring.
Yes. And see, what I wonder there is if the gun is actually the thing that's out of sync. Like the gun on your client, your gun is loaded, but on the server, there's nothing there. Like the gun,
you reloaded or something. You think your client thinks it reloaded, but the server doesn't think you reloaded, for example. So you try to shoot. The server says you don't actually have a bullet in the chamber.
Potentially, that could be. I mean, I'd be interested, because if that was true, then in theory, what would the person that's the subject that's getting shot at, would he hear the gun, the hammer hit nothing, like the click? Would he hear that? Or would that not even be the case, because I don't know, maybe it's just like a bug and the server thinks null or something.
I think it all depends on how it ends up working. I'm not sure. I can't speculate.
Long story short, Veritas did. I saw he put a tweet about this, and he said, "I am unlikely a ballistics issue, more likely a client/server sync relay issue, not necessarily double barrel shotgun /flechette only." Info sent to Nikita, which is mega interesting, because he did a bunch of testing, he says.
Okay, well,
but
maybe it'll get fixed soon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's super interesting, and I say that because I've watched a lot of landmark videos this wipe, like just a lot. Like I'm just a landmark enjoyer at this point, and a ton of times he'll be like, "How's that guy not dead?" Like he'll shoot a guy, and I think I said this before, and then he'll kill him again another way, and he'll go look at the body, and you can see there's like a black dot and blood around his head, and he's like, "Chat, I shot that guy in the head. What is this, Nikita?" So, that's my landmark. All interesting stuff. Okay, what's next on the news list? Are we all caught up?
I think we're all caught up. Is there anything else on the news? I think that's done.
As far as I can recall, I think that's.
I was going to ask you. I put this question out to Twitter, but I was going to ask you as well. I'm in now a predicament, Church. I still haven't pressed the button to upgrade to solar power.
Oh.
And I don't know whether I should, because I always like working towards the long-term goals of the Hideout. It's just, it gives you somewhere to place the money until the end of the wipe, where it just starts to build up exponentially like crazy. But I quite like the grind. I enjoy the grind. And even if the Bitcoin Farm 3, because I thought about this, I don't know if this wipe really makes sense because of how expensive the power filters are and the fact that graphics cards are already really expensive, 600k each or something. I just don't think it necessarily makes sense to do it, because by the time you get to the break-even point, there's a month left or something, and you've still probably got 50 million rubles in the bank. So does it really matter? Who really cares? Would I rather enjoy the money now? But at the same time, once you start scrolling past, if you're running budget kits or whatever, and you start scrolling past 10, 15 mil, you think, well, I may as well do it, because I enjoy the progression and it's fun and it gives me something to work towards. It means I don't just stockpile money continuously. So I've slowly bought the parts to it because that makes me feel better about it. I don't like dumping all my money on it in one go. I like having a decent amount of flow to, in case I want to do something. Maybe I want to make a meta build to do a video because I'm never sure exactly what I need for it. So when I did those ammo recoil videos, when I was going through the whole phase of doing tons of stuff about different recoils and that kind of thing, and I had my horrible experience where I lost all the stuff in factory, that meant that I could go and buy all that stuff again, right? Because I didn't have those trader levels. So I bought those guns and all the parts to
Oh.
make near meta guns off the flea. I spent like 500k on that AK, for example, just for the
Mhm.
video, to have a low recoil AK with the waffle suppressor and all that stuff. So I
Yeah.
like having a certain amount of money just to be able to like make the content I want to
Sure.
make without having to worry about, because I know I can get it back. And this is one of the great things to lose gear fear in some ways, is making content, because you buy all this random stuff and you don't necessarily even need it because you want to make a video with it. And like, okay, well, I may as well just use this gun now because it's like, yeah, it's worth $500,000, but who cares? Because I would never bought it anyway. I bought it for the video, and now
Mhm.
I've made the video, and I've got it sat in my stash, just rotting in the corner. But anyway, so I just don't know now whether I should press the button or not, given that the solar power thing is bugged. It's still bugged. It's not been fixed. Solar power is running fuel at twice the speed rather than half or whatever it's supposed to. I think it's 50% fuel longevity is the buff, but it's actually increasing the rate of it being burnt by double, which is I like.
Well,
How
is
for
that
a start? How does that even happen, right? And surely it's one number. Surely it's one number. It just says times. How does it even happen, dude? Like,
there's a line of
I'm
code?
actually astounded.
It's like
Honestly,
negative or positive, and it's like 1 or 0. And
I
someone
actually just don't even like. Honestly, I'm shocked. Of all the things, this is probably the most shocking, because a lot of the stuff you go, okay, this is audio. Okay, this is really complicated. Networking desynchronization. This is really complicated. The solar power burning at twice the rate. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what? And then it's a week and a half or something, and it's after it was properly reported across everybody, going, "Whoa, this is
Right.
crazy." And they've put out a couple of patches, and it's still not fixed. It surely is one line. How does it even revert to 2 times rather than half? I just don't see. It's so. I have no words for that. I really have no
Yeah.
words for it.
See, stuff like this, I would love. I would kill to see behind the scenes how this happens and what the problem was, because it could
Yeah.
be like you're saying, something super simplistic, or it could be like this just giant web of code that was like, well, you see, we typed an extra 0 here, and that affected this line, which affected this line, and it trickled all the way down, and yeah.
Yeah.
But
Which I suspect is probably the case. It's probably something like that, where it's based off something else and that flipped or whatever. I've done similar things with various stuff where you go, well, I'm only going to do this quickly, so you just need to link this to this, mainly Excel, but you link this to this cell, whatever. You don't make a proper reference for it or a proper data reference, and you just leave it somewhere else. Then you change the original cell, and it screws everything up because you didn't do it properly in the first place, and you think,
right.
the consequences of my actions, you know.
Yes.
So
No.
I imagine it's probably something like that, but it's quite annoying
So
because
does it happen when you're online too? Because I thought it only
no,
happens when you're offline.
it only
Oh,
happens when
okay.
you're offline. So when you're online, it burns at
That's
the right
even
rate,
more
supposedly, which is
interesting.
even more interesting
Yeah.
because you would think that it was just the same.
Right.
How is,
Right.
like, why is it different? Why is there a
Why
different
is it
rate between the two? Why is that even parameterized into the game?
Are they
I don't know.
secretly taking more fuel while you're offline? Conspiracy theory right here on
Yeah,
ScavTalk. We're brewing it
like
up.
maybe, where's my tinfoil hat? Maybe they wanted at some point to incentivize people to be online to have faster crafts if you're in the hideout, maybe, or something, and so segregated it in the code or whatever. So there's two separate things for it. Who knows? But it's kind of annoying because it takes 72 hours to make.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to make it, but I also don't really want to burn through enormous quantities of fuel.
Right.
Not in the small part due to the fact that most of the time when I go to Prapor, and definitely in the afternoon, if it's any time after 3 minutes after his reset, he's sold out of fuel using the propane trade, which is by far the best thing. I buy propane in European hours, and then I hand them all in to Prapor when I can, usually in European hours, because once all of you lot get on, the whole market's sold out on everything.
Tell me about it,
Yeah,
dude.
exactly. I do actually feel for the US gamers a lot, actually, because we here in Europe, we get to boot up the PC in the morning, go on the
Mm-hmm.
Hideout, do the stuff, craft the things, buy a few water filters, whatever. It's kind of a chill experience. But then, yeah, you get into the evening here, and people start getting ready for the afternoon, and then by the time
Right.
it's into the night here, it's just the
You
market's
can't get.
just
Yep.
crazy. You can't buy anything. Everything's sold out straight away. Because even Prapo's fuel bar to an hour in, you can normally get fuel in like the European morning, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can usually do some things like the tac is just insta gone. That's just never there. But
Really?
that's because there's only 200 or something, I think. When I looked, there's
Uh,
just hardly any. But fuel is a decent amount. And so I do feel for you guys because there's just so many more players and the global and this is a stupid thing. I know we talk about global limits all the time, so I don't want to go on a huge tangent
sure.
about it, but the global limits are the same no matter what time zone you're in. And there's 5 times the number of players in US 8 p.m. than there is
Mm-hmm.
UK 8 in the morning. There must
Right.
be 10 times the number of players, probably. There's
Yeah.
so many people because you've got all of Europe playing and US, whereas in the morning in Europe, probably not that many Europeans are actually on, and the Asia region is on, that's fine. But you almost need global regions by time. They need to dynamically scale based on the number of players, really, because
That could
it's a
be an
different
interesting
game.
way to do it.
Hmm. Yeah,
What
scale it by player base. It'd be easy. The number of people logged in. You just have it as a scale factor.
you
Boom.
could do that, yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry. I was
That was it.
oh.
That was it. Scaling factor. Boom.
I was gonna say Airwing had an idea. Curious to see what you think.
Oh yeah.
Um Everything's the same as it is. You have global limits, there's a certain amount of stock, whatever. But when you do, let's take the slick barter, for example. When you do the barter, for the next 24 hours, you cannot do that barter anymore, even if it's reset.
Okay.
So that way, the idea is, quote unquote, everyone gets one at some point because you're sort of like saying, okay, you got your supply. Right, and then the thought is, like, as everyone would get their supply, there'd be less people camping the traders, so it'd be more of a you wouldn't have to sit there and camp the traders because no other person
Yeah.
could or less people could actually have the ability to do the barter because they already got theirs earlier. It would
Yes,
be like a
maybe.
nerf in some ways.
The only thing that I would say about that, I don't think that it's a bad idea at all.
Mhm.
I just feel that a simpler solution is to get rid of the global limit, make it a personal limit, and make it 24 hours. I think it's effective. That's kind of what we're doing.
Kind of,
That's what we're
yeah.
asking for here, really. We're saying we don't want to camp traders anymore. I want personal limits. Okay, fine, but you can only get one slick a day. That's sort of
Yeah.
what we're going towards, I think. Because otherwise, if it's a really popular, imagine they do that, but then they only have 3 per reset. You're still sort of in the same situation, but you can only get 1 per day, and it still sucks because there's a global limit. The global limits only work, I think, if there is a sensible amount of stock. The way it should be done, I think, is similar to what we talked about with the dynamic traders idea potentially, that it should have a stock amount that gets nudged based on how many people buy it.
Yes.
And it should be in each period as well through some methodology. So, and what they should be aiming for, broadly speaking, for things that are scarce, maybe you start with we want it to be sold out halfway through the trader's time allocation or something. So half the time that you go there randomly, they will have it. The other half the time they won't. And that would feel fairer. I think the problem that people have is when they go and any time they go, if they haven't camped the trader, that item is gone. And it's always gone. And you have to set alarms and stuff, and it's stupid. Whereas if people went there and sometimes it was not there and sometimes it was there, it would feel fairer. So you increase the stock or decrease the stock so that you get to 50% middle ground. And maybe some of the items like the slick, you make it so that it sells out in the first quarter. So there's most of the time, I don't know. But that would be the way that I would try to balance global limits if global limits are a thing that they specifically and definitely want.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I don't really see any problem with personal limits instead that are just longer, as you say, like a day. Personal limits per day for things like the slick, I think it's okay because it still puts some scarcity on it, but it means you don't have to cram into the bar to try and rush to get there and set alarms and all this silly stuff. And I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about global limits. I used to not really mind, and I like the idea of the limited scarcity of it, but I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I like the like I can see what they're going for, having a
Mm,
set amount of an item that the trader has. I see what they're going for on the economical side.
yeah.
Um, but the how it ends up playing out through the gameplay, if you will, is camping traders, which I don't think many people, if anyone, actually likes doing. So there's got to be something they can do, and if it's a nudging thing, if it's um a player individual limit thing, you're only allotted one slick out of 200 to buy. I don't know. So
Yeah. I think one of the worst parts about it is that, say, you want to buy a piece of armor and you want to buy a good piece of armor. Well, Ragman resets all in one go on the same timer. So all the tactics are gone, all the slicks are gone, all of the whatever else that you might want to buy that's any good are all gone. And they're all gone at the same time because it resets at the same time on everything because the traders are specific to certain items. I think Ragman's probably the worst one because you can get different attachments from different traders. But Ragman's the
yeah,
only one that really sells other than the current. Is it? And there's a few others. There's the Osprey from Peacekeeper, but you have to do certain things. Ragman's the bulk of the problem, I think, or looks. He's the easiest one to point to and say this is problematic because if you want to buy any good armor, you have to be there at the trader reset. Otherwise, it's all going to be gone. And it's not like individual items have different timers on them or anything.
hmm
But no, I don't know. I feel like personal limits where you've got some longer timers that you can't buy it for a day or something for really high end items. I feel like that's kind of all right. I think that's okay.
I'm kind of falling back to what we talked about a few um podcast episodes ago about the dynamic traders, and come to think of it, for me, every time Peacekeeper resets, I buy the EOTech and the D balls,
Mm.
my supply, and then that's it. And I just keep doing that until I have a lot. Like right now, the Meta 751 suppressor. What is it? The
Yeah.
PWRS, the CAC that goes on the muzzle. I
Uh-huh.
have like 8 of those, because dude, when I first saw that I couldn't buy them, I was like, oh, cool, I unlocked this new thing. Let me go buy. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
and they
It's pretty
literally
annoying.
and they sell out constantly on the traders. So I have a list. I have a shopping list that I do, and this is the thing: what they're going for doesn't really give me an interesting choice. What it does is, instead of me paying a premium on the flea market, I'll just wait for the trader reset, and that's sort of how you gamify it. What I think would be interesting is, like, let's just remove whatever. Let's keep the global limits. Let's keep the trader stock. But what if the price increased? Then, based off the popularity of it constantly getting sold out, or the barter increased. Then, if the slick barter was like, it needs 7 USEC armors, 20 Kadora fabrics, then I might be like, okay, well, maybe this ain't worth it anymore. And then it would scale
Mhm.
back. Like that would actually make it okay. Let me see. I can't. The slick's not worth it. Let me do something else.
Yeah.
To me, that's really what they need to aim for. Um,
That's
yeah,
actually a good idea. Yeah, because that's kind of then driving people to do different things. You say, well, this thing's great, but it's super expensive now. The reason why it gets sold out instantaneously, that's clever because you're basically saying the problem is not that the barter system necessarily, even though it could be changed, but the root of the problem is the fact that the barter is such good value, which is the
yes,
reason why it gets sold out instantaneously because
yes,
it's so worth it because it's so cheap relative to what you get. So that needs to dynamically change and could do with the traders. That's cool. I like that. I like that. I think that's clever. That is quite clever. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's interesting. Would you like to know an interesting discovery that I found this week,
All
which
right.
may or may not be a fantastic thing. It was a fantastic thing for me, and other people may not have realized this. Right. So, point of view, you're me. You're assembling an M4 in your stash. Your stash is full of good stuff that you don't want to use because you don't have time to play like a kitted run.
Sure.
So you don't have that much stuff in there. And you completely build a different M4 where it takes off almost all of the rubbishy default parts and then it puts on all nice parts and makes a 50 recoil M4 because you want to see what the recoil is like this wipe. You press assemble and it goes, there's not enough space in your stash. The M4 does not fit with the suppressor and blah, 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 blah. What do you do at that point, Church? What do you do?
But as much
Do
stuff
you
you can on your
do you
PMC.
sorry?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, do you curse at the assembly screen, save the preset, close the preset screen, go into inventory, sort everything out, put the M4 in its nice space, and then go back and like get it to reassemble it? Or do you reassemble it manually or something? Do you do any of those things?
Yeah, I probably would do that first thing, even and
Yeah.
like because you can't save the preset, can you, or can you?
You can save it. You can save it. But
I
then it
would
means
try to save it,
you
but
have to then go back into the preset. You have to open the preset up again. What if I told you
okay.
instead, if you went into find parts and then you clicked into traders or something at the top, and then you went to character, you can move stuff around, including the M4 there. And
No
once you've moved it,
way.
you can then back out into the thing, press assemble, boom, it just does it.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh my
I
god. I
tried and
need
I
you.
tried it this week. I was like, I wonder if this works actually, because I've been doing more and more shenanigans around the weapons presets in there because you can go and check prices of items and then come back and it's still there because it almost knows the layers. Even if you're in your stash, it knows that there's a weapons preset somewhere. It's still there, saved somewhere. I've been slowly figuring out those mechanics while I've been doing all the different gun builds. And I was like, hang on a minute, does this work for this? I'm going to sort it out in the thing, back out, boom, put all the parts on, no more problems. I was like, this is great. This is actually really good.
That would be an excellent YouTube short / TikTok.
It would. Shame I don't do YouTube shorts. I'm going to put it in a video with some other stuff because it doesn't justify it on its own.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, which I have been clicking this button for, I would say, I don't know, I can't remember when they actually put the weapons preset system in there, but I'm probably going to say years that I've been pressing this button, which is when you do find parts in the first place, and then you have to click not just the traders. It says traders only is one of the filters, and you press the little X.
Yes. Okay. I'm following you.
I press that little X every single time I go into that menu.
Yep.
And have done for years and years and years.
Yep.
What would you say if I told you that you could go into that filter and you can press the button at the bottom which says save the filter, and that filter is different than the filter on the flea market. It doesn't override the flea market filter. You can save it so that the traders thing is just all. My mind is blown.
I
realized that literally today.
Yeah, it's a game changer for sure. The only downside is if you like, I've been running a lot of SVDs for the Punisher Part 6. So the default preset is like one of the RK3 or one of those grips, a really good high ergo grip. Yeah. If it's already sold out from the trader and you go to buy it from the flea, it's really expensive. So in some ways it was kind of nice to see like, oh, this one's blacked out because it's sold from the trader. But I did learn that from the bug / shenanigans going to the flea market where things were like sold out, like people were listing cords and they were completely sold out, and it's like, oh, you can do this thing where you click, quantity has to be greater than 1, and then click remember to save filter features or whatever. I was like, oh, I didn't know about that. And then I thought, weapon presets, let me try here and see if it's screwy or if it works, and it works. And I was like, wow, that's a great Tarkov flea market hacks 2020 edition. Very poggers coming out soon.
Exactly.
Video.
Exactly. Yeah. It's partly that. It's sort of turning into that. I was brainstorming a video and it's sort of morphed from, it was going to be more kind of recoil versus ergo and how to sort of do one versus the other. And it's ended up being more like a bit more mechanical, but I think it's okay. It's a kind of going to be a mix of the two things. I think I'm still drafting it, so I don't know. We'll see. But these two things popped out of it because I wrote down, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about the fact that it says traders only, and I was like, is that true? And then I went to go and check it, and I can save this filter. Oh, I can save the filter, and I was like, right, backspace, backspace, backspace. You can now go and save the filter. That's written down into the notes now. So that was good. But yeah, the fixing the weapon thing for the assembly, which I did yesterday, I thought, that's actually really quite good.
Yeah.
So because that's annoyed me so much when there's no space to make it and it bugs out, errors out, and there's not really, other than that, there's not a good way of doing it because you'd have to save it, go back out, move the stuff, go back in. It's just a pain. So that's cool.
If you're adding a suppressor on the gun or potentially changing a stock, it's going to happen every time because the gun's going to go in the most top left space of your inventory. And if your stash is like mine, it's very clean. I got all organized or whatever. So it's like, God, every time I build a gun, it's like spend all this time working, checking out the parts. Like, okay, assemble. Damn you, game. And it's
yeah, because it wants this. If you put the suppressor on, it moves to the right. But if you put the stock on, it then it's stuck and it doesn't work properly. Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it's
good. Speaking of Ergo, I thought more about our last discussion, and I've kind of like, I don't know if it'd be really worth, but it would be interesting to me, and I don't know how to go about it, but I was thinking about building a model where I basically recreate the M4 and all the attachments and how it all gets calculated in like a spreadsheet or some sort. I don't know, but it just
to
talking
do what though?
Well, to have a secondary spreadsheet that would be sort of my proposition of a different calculation system for like Ergo specifically. Because you were talking last week, like as an example, let's say you have, I'm think of a universal attachment that adds. Okay, I got one for you. The new optics, Genesis, I think it's called, the 300 millimeter Genesis ring mounts. They add them this wipe, and they add plus 0.5 ergo. And there's a secondary attachment, which is a vital attachment to it, and it's the second, fourth, or sorry, the other half of the ring mount that goes on there. And you could put an RMR accepting mount that will take the RMR scope, or you can just seal it off. And if you seal it off with the ring mount, it gives you 0.5. So you end up with a scope mount that gives you a total of 1 ergo, which is kind of interesting because all the other scope mounts reduce ergo. So something like that were, changed to instead of it being a flat value across the board, it's sort of, multiplies. Let's say it's like, we'll do like a generous, like 10% ergo, right? Gain. Right. Let's just say. Well, if you have like a really low ergo gun, it's like its base is like 5 ergo, you're not getting anything off of that. But if you have a really high ergo gun, then it's like, dude, you're just like off the chart. So I'd just be curious to see how much would need to be tinkered and changed and like, completely reworked and for it to like make sense, but not going too far where I'm just like completely redesigning the weapon systems. Like, I don't know, it would just be kind of a fun thing to see.
Yeah.
How viable
well, as we talked about last time, you could, if you wanted to do it as a percentage basis and you wanted to change the stats per weapon, then you could, as we talked about last time, you could think about every gun is having a base of 100 ergo, and then it's got whatever modifier, and so you could then just tweak those stats from there as you wanted to fix it. Would be it's not really true, but it's sort of the rubber band way of thinking about it. But I mean, what's your intended outcome here? Why? I just don't feel like ergo is necessarily that much of a problem in the way that it happens in the weapons modding. I feel like recoil's more of an issue when it comes to the weapons modding and the way it works. I never feel like ergo's particularly too strong or too weak. And then something like the SA58, if it's got terrible ergonomics, then you can just never really fix it either. I don't know. Like, what's your ultimate aim?
Well, that is the problem. Is that I don't know if this is exactly what you're saying, but it just seems like ergo is never the problem. Ergo is the afterthought, right? So like you, like
Yeah.
it, for me at least, I've looked at a lot of builds, and this wipe especially, I just go for maximum or maximum recoil reduction. Like the
Mm.
RK2, yeah, I'm trading a ton of points in ergo, like a lot, a lot. Um, but it's just like I would much rather have an actually manageable, like a slightly better recoil. Like I don't know, it just even like how many times have they nerfed that attachment? Because when it first, or at least since I can remember, it was like +5 recoil reduction, like +2 ergo, like it was something. And then they're like, okay, now we're gonna make it reduce recoil, and then now we're gonna make, or sorry, reduce ergo now, and then the next patch, now we're gonna make it reduce even more recoil, and now this patch, okay, it's only gonna give +4, and then it's gonna give -16 ergo. No one should ever use this, and I still see people use it, and I'm using it. It's just like I just feel like the system doesn't really, it's like to me, it seems what I see is like you're trying to take a balance between ergonomics and recoil when you're building these guns. But I just often find like ergo is just kind of an afterthought. Like wherever you can get free points, take it. But otherwise, you always go for ergo.
Yeah, I know what you
I
mean.
mean recoil.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Recoil ergo, it's all the same. No,
Yeah.
I do agree because that's normally the way that I end up making this stuff is on builds is that you go max recoil first and then you say, okay, well, where are we going to get some small sacrifices that give you the most bang for buck? Where things like the RK2 is usually the first thing to come off. You say, well, it's only 4 and I can change it to this one, which is 3, or this one, and I get no ergo, but that's a big swing positive relative. And or I go for -2 recoil and then I get loads of ergo. I get 8 or something if I go for what's the new meta one, the Cobra or something. I think is like +8 or so, or 9 even. I don't remember because they
Yeah,
changed
something
up
like
some of
that.
them because the shift is now only 1%, I think. But it's like
Yeah.
1% and 8, and then or maybe it's still 2% and 8, and there's another one which is 1% but gives you 9. I can't remember exactly which way it works, but they're all, I mean, it's all very, very similar. It doesn't
Yes.
really matter. And that's the thing. Once you're going from, it depends on the gun, but if you're going from 4% to 2%, where you're going to get 20 swing in ergonomics, then it's kind of a no-brainer in that part. But a lot of the parts, you don't really get a choice, as we spoke previously about the SA58, where you don't get enough ergo for going to the shorter
Right.
barrels. Like some of the things on the M4, where you're always going to use the Altor MUR upper
Mm-hmm.
because it's -5 and it's still good ergonomics. It doesn't take it away. So why
Right.
would you ever use the super ergo one, which is +13 ergonomics or whatever, because it's only -1% recoil reduction? You think, well, that doesn't really make sense because I can get enough ergo out of the pistol grip or something. If I want to
Right.
spend the money and just get something good, then I don't need to make that um, the the three factors ends up being recoil, ergonomics, and price. But then when you take
Mm-hmm.
price out of the equation, you can get both of these. You see, and so
Yeah.
when people have got a ton of money, they go, well, now I don't need to what is on the guns that are meta. I don't need to worry now about either of these. I go max recoil first, then I make some small sacrifices, get really good ergo as well, and then I've got both. And it's expensive, sure, but no one cares about cash, so it's only a problem early in the early wave, and you can't even buy the good stuff anyway now because it's
Yeah.
locked behind the traders anyway. So the money's actually not as worth as it used to be. So yeah, I kind of see I kind of see what you're saying, but I don't know whether you necessarily need to change the whole system. Don't you just need to change the ergonomics so that you just double all the ergonomics in the game, double all of it,
Like you
all the
could do
penalties and all the
that.
positives? It's sort of the
You
same, no?
you could do that. I mean, you'd have to check the base. I mean, not the base, but like the stock M4, the stock 8R, like just make sure like those aren't too
Yeah.
funky. But I mean, I was thinking that like what instead of the meta pistol grip, the Grawl given +15 ergo if it gave 7,
Mm.
7.5. Yeah. I mean that could work. I still think even then, this was the other thing I should have mentioned. I feel like ergo really only comes into play when you're sniping. because having zero ergo when sniping is really bad. It's really rough. Like I
What,
have a
just the arm
20,
stamina situation?
yeah, I have like a 29 ergo SVDS, and it works. Like I can, it's not bad, I wouldn't say, but you definitely have to play around that. I can't just sit there and hold the angle for more than what feels like 20 seconds. It's just
Mm,
like you have to
yeah.
really manage that. But when you have something that's more sprayable, more hip fireable, you can send more round down range, and it's like it doesn't come into play all that much, I think. I don't know. So one of the things I was thinking too, and see what you think about this, is what if another stat that Ergo affected or manipulated was your reload speed? So if you had, let's say at 50 Ergo, just an example, it was neutral.
Mhm.
But if as you went down that threshold, it increased the reload speed, and as you went up in that threshold, it gave you bonuses. Or what about like animation hand? Like you could swap faster. Like if you're healing and you got to pull your gun back out, then it would. If you had a higher go, it would come out slightly faster. Like just something to like give it a little bit more nudge. Because I think it would be
Yeah.
so cool to have an ergo based gun. Like you're trading recoil, but you got like this insanely comfortable ergonomics. And I'm trying to think of like ways like you can like stretch like ergo comfort that could like apply to like in gamify it in game
Yeah, that's
mechanics.
kind of cool. I quite like that actually. I was almost wondering there whether breakpoints there would be good or not, whether that would be detrimental or whether it would be a
Yeah.
meta thing where you say, well, if you get to 70 ergo, you get a different animation. So people are like trying to like squeak builds in that like just get to the 70 ergo so that you're trying to get the best recoil you can for like that breakpoint so that you're getting your reload animation stuff. And it could be interesting. But yeah, if you had it scaled so that you reloaded slightly quicker, because it does make sense, if you've got a massive cumbersome weapon.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm no expert, but I'm sure it's easier to reload because you have to hold the gun with one hand for a start, right? So if it's extremely heavy, that's part of the problem with the SVD in the first place, is that I've been playing around the other way around, trying to make some ergonomics builds, but the gun is just so damn heavy. It,
Mm.
it feels like you can't hold it up properly, even if you've got really good ergonomics. And I was trying unsuppressed versions with the crazy stocks. We were doing a bit on stream. I think maybe this is the reason why I've not been killing anybody with it, but we've been trying it, and it's hard. It's just so hard to make work. And because it's so heavy anyway, you're pumping all this stuff into ergo, but because of the weight, which is it's an interesting relationship that I've looked into in the past, but is complicated to get good data for. It's not easy to analyze for a start, and
Hmm.
also it's hard to get a nice control. But that's kind of another thing. Trying to keep the stats the same and changing the weight is actually difficult because if all the
Yeah.
parts have different weights, and oh god, it's an absolute nightmare. So I really did try, but I didn't have enough weight of material to really come to a good conclusion,
Hmm.
which is the problem. And you're trying to measure ADS speed, which in and of itself is annoying. Where I normally did the LCAN, the point at which you see the center of the crosshair on the
Yeah.
LCAN was the measurement point. But there's no other way to do it. But it was a complete minefield and just so difficult to make any of the builds work. The only way, if anybody is interested in seeing the difference, on weight alone, the best way to measure it is to get something with good ergonomics, like an M4, but with really good ergo, and then to put a 100 rounder in with no bullets and with 100 bullets, because that changes the weight a lot and it doesn't change the stats on the gun at all. It
Oh,
only changes the weight. So that's a good way to do it. But it's it's, it's difficult. It's not
that's
that
smart.
easy to spot. I don't know. But that was the way that I was trying to look at it. But it takes forever and it's so hard to do. But there's a weird relationship because yeah, some guns with terrible ergo because they're so light doesn't matter. If you have, let's say, what would be a gun with bad ergo? I think something like the MP7 with a suppressor on it, it's not actually that amazing ergonomics, but
Mm.
you can hold that up for ages because it's so
Yeah,
light.
yeah.
Whereas the SVD with 60 ergonomics, again, it's 20 seconds and you're done, and it sucks because the thing weighs like eight
Really?
kilos or something.
See,
Yeah,
I wasn't too convinced on the weight stuff, so I might have to
I think it
test it
makes a big. I
myself.
think it makes a quite a big difference per weapon. And there's only so much you can do about it because some of the guns are just really heavy. Like if you make the SVD it's a long weapon, and all the handguards are really
Yeah.
long, and it's all the attachments just make it really. You have the SVD modern rail or something, and it's this huge slab of metal that you put on the top, and thinking, oh goodness, and this thing's now weighs a metric ton. It's difficult, but yeah, I did a bit of testing with it, but it's hard to have a go with it, play around with it, see if you can come. Maybe I'll do something eventually on it, but because I was trying to understand whether there was a value in. This is really the crux of it. I was trying to understand whether there was a value in not really bothering about ergonomics, trying to get ergonomics, but doing a combination of ergonomics and weight together, and how much weight is worth a 1 point of ergonomics. That was what I was trying to figure out, and I
Oh.
couldn't really figure it out. It was actually more complicated than I expected, and some of the parts, as I said, yeah, 100 rounds makes a difference, sure, because that weighs like a few kilos or something. But a lot of the parts are, this one weighs 700 grams and this one weighs 400 grams, and it just doesn't seem to make enough difference to actually be compelling in any particular way. And it's all based around the weapon itself and how heavy that core component is. I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah.
I didn't get too far with it.
I can verify SVD is heavy. I looked at it just as a one-off on my screen, and it was like, I want to say it was 9.8 kilos, like kilograms. It
Oh,
was, yeah, which is like 33% of my total weight like, is all in this gun. My
that's
armor
like
might not even weigh as much as that. Like, it was
that's like
insane.
holding, yeah, it's like holding my, 1 year and 3 month baby out in front of you and trying to aim her.
Oh my god, the visual picture. That's
She weighs
hilarious.
quite a lot now when you carry her around, so I can imagine how holding the SVD, trying to shoot someone, like trying to look down a scope, stood up with it outstretched with a
Yeah, yeah.
suppressor on the end, right, which
Right.
changes the balance, and then trying to, yeah, look down an optic with
Mm-hmm.
the sight picture and stuff. You can see why it's difficult. The worst thing about the whole arm stamina, having to manage the arm stamina, is that sometimes you hold that angle and you're like, but then you have to regen your arm stamina, and then you miss the opportunity because someone's running, but you're like, well, I just can't pick the gun back up because it's going to go down to 0 on arm stamina so
Mm-hmm.
quickly that I won't be able to actually hit the guy. And so you're sat there on one times just watching them run and going, well, I just don't have enough time to kill them. It's sad, yeah, the arm stamina thing's a bit tricky. So you end up lying down a lot with them, but then you're really vulnerable and you're not mobile. It's problematic. I've been having real issues with Punisher Part 6. I really have. Oh, that's why I took a break from it.
Yeah.
The SVD just doesn't like. I used to love the SVD, and I'm just finding it so hard to use this wipe. I don't
Well,
know why. It's maybe because I'm not going for full recoil builds. Because I don't want to. I don't want to just go, I'm going to slap all the recoil reducing attachments on and get to 80 or whatever it is.
you
Maybe
can get
that's
it
the
pretty
best
low.
way. Honestly, it might be the best way because now you can change the stock out on the SVD.
Yeah,
You
that's a
can
big
you
game
can do
changer.
some real shenanigans with it because you used to not be able to mod it that much, but now you can get it to some really good levels. So maybe I'll just try that because the ergo thing just doesn't really seem to be working.
What were you going for your ergo? What was like your
Well, I don't even have the game open, but what I was trying, so we were trying something which was kind of interesting and a bit controversial, which I've never actually tried before. We were using the GL core
I
because
thought
you could,
you might be doing that. Yeah.
yeah, because you can put that on the STM tube, but you can't buy the STM tube. You
Oh.
actually can't buy it from traders. There's
What does
nowhere
the
to buy it.
STM2 do
The
again?
one that goes on the STM9.
Well, what is the stats?
Um,
I'm sorry.
oh, I don't think they're that great, but you can't put the GL core on really anything else. So you can't use the GL
Oh,
core on the M4, I don't think,
gotcha.
because you can't put the STM, or maybe you have to use the STM tube to get it on there, but you can't use like the SI Advanced. I think you can use the Mesa Cross one, but that's quite negative ergo.
Right.
It gives good recoil, but it's negative ergo. So you have to, if you don't want negative recoil for the SVD anyway, I think you have to use the STM. So because I was going through it with chat actually, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, get this," and we ended up going to the flea, buying an STM with the the tube and the GL core because the STM comes with it by default. Actually, it's stock on the STM, and so we were buying the gun, selling the whole rest of the gun except for that thing back to mechanic because they're really cheap on the flea anyway. So selling all of the other parts, the upper and all the other stuff, taking the stock and the tube and sticking it into the SVD stock adapter and using that, and then trying to go for ergonomics from there. But it's just, yeah, it's not really been working because the recoil is pretty rough, honestly.
because
And you
that's
just don't get enough time to make. It's the follow-up shots that's the problem. You lose sight picture when you fire. It's just really difficult. And if you find somebody at point blank, again, it's really hard to shoot them because your recoil is 150 or something.
and at that point you're not really using your ergo, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe you're hip firing or maybe you're ADSing. I don't know. You might be ADSing.
Yeah, but even still, even at long ranges, I was still finding that it wasn't working because I still couldn't hold the gun up particularly. So this is the one that I was. So the gun that I've got here is exactly that, and we've got the the MF001. It's the funny AK grip that has 10 ergos, the highest ergo foregrip in the whole game, and it fits to. I think it fits to the Krebs and a few other things, but anyway, it fits
Oh, it's like
natively
yeah.
onto, you know which one I mean. It's got a weird, it's a little
I
nub
know.
bit and then the actual foregrip, but there's no recoil on it at all. And that fits natively to the modernized SVD
Yes, you're
handguard.
talking about.
It's got that unsuppressed with the standard muzzle device, the STM tube, and the GL core on there. And that
Mhm.
gets to 58 ergonomics. So the bar is
Pretty
off the
good.
charts ergo, but the gun still weighs 6 kilos.
Mhm.
And the recoil is even worse than I thought, actually. I forgot how bad it is. It's 177.
That's
And
extremely high. That's
even
extremely
in
high.
even in semi-auto, it is very difficult to
Yeah.
use that weapon. It's very, very difficult. And I was using it with a TAC 30, and if you're zoomed in with a TAC 30, you fire, you're looking at the moon for a good couple of seconds before it comes back down again, and you need to hit people twice with the SVD because you're probably going to be using SMB or BT or something. And PS doesn't one tap through class 4 anyway.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, you have the game open?
I do now.
If you swapped the tube for the advanced tube, the
Hmm.
one that gives ergo and recoil, and the Mo plus the rubber butt pad,
Yeah.
I would wager that you would lose about well, anyways, you probably have very similar ergo, but your recoil would be like, you probably gain 50 points in recoil reduction.
Let's see. So that does. And so there's a lot of things. It's not really enjoying this. Okay, so that takes it to, yeah, so 53 ergo. So he lost 4.
Mhm.
And the recoil went to 150. So we made
Okay.
25 or so.
That's actually not as much as I was thinking.
Yeah. And if we go mess across, which is even
Mhm.
more, I think, then this has just turned into the gun mod show. Then that gets to 50 ergonomics and 143 recoil. See, the thing is, it's just brutal. Like the recoil is so high on this gun.
But this
Without
is
the
my
suppressor, it's just difficult.
this is my point. The recoil is so high and you get so many points for recoil reduction
Mm,
because the base is so high. But the
mhm.
ergo is so flat that it doesn't make any sense to do an ergo build, which I feel is just a missed opportunity because I also tried a Geo core tube. Like I was looking at the stats and I'm like, dude, this is just not worth. Nope, nope. Not gonna field test it. There's no way this is worth, dude. Give me the Mo rubber butt pad quick right now.
I mean, it's so good. It's been so good for so long.
Yeah, they really should change that, but that's
Really
a whole
has.
nother topic.
Yeah. So maybe I'm going to try a completely different approach, and I'm just going to go for full recoil reduction and make some super meta versions of the SVD because I think that might work better because you still want to be able to go bang bang and double tap people. You have to. You have to be able to take those follow up shots.
Yeah,
It's
especially
just
yeah.
absolutely necessary. So hard
Yep.
without it. Yeah, so hard without it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling with that one a little bit, but we'll see. And I was trying to go unsuppressed and stuff, but as you say, it just doesn't make enough difference. The gun still weighs 6 or 7 kilos, and I think that has a disproportionate effect. The MP7 weighs 2 kilos stock. You can take the Ergo down as much as you like, and it's a little toy
Yeah.
that you throw around in your hands.
Hmm.
Whereas the SVD is an absolute beast of a weapon.
So if you take how much of a percentage difference would you say? Like, let's say you take that MP7 and you made the Ergo 30, and then you took the SVD and you made the Ergo 30. The difference in weight, how much would that affect arm stamina percentage base if you had to give your educated best guess, which you have
It
to?
would my best guess. I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I would guess that the MP7 is at least my gut instinct was to say 3 times the arm stamina, but I think maybe that's too much. Maybe it's 2. I'm not sure because arm stamina was nerfed in general, so maybe it's less now. It's not something you really pay attention to, so it's hard to know.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go and check and actually time it. I'm not sure, but it feels so quick with the SVD, even with
Yeah.
the Ergo build, which is crazy. So if you're saying both are at 30, the MP7 hardly drains your stamina. This is the thing. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's
I don't
yeah.
think you could get them both at 30, maybe 40. Somewhere in the 40s, you probably could with
Yeah,
like
so
a 40
I
round
mean, you
mag, and
stick the MP7 on with the 40 rounder,
maybe you don't
and
even put the stock on. Does the stock give Ergo on the MP7?
uh,
I
it does
wonder.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe you take that
it
out.
does. So now that's 36, and then can
Oh,
we
there we go.
put something unholy on it, like the read by R? So now that's 25, and then
Oh God.
yeah, this is probably the most disgusting MP7 I've ever seen in my entire life, but that's fine. And then you're just going to completely cover it with holosuns. Obviously, that's
Uh-huh.
just what you do. So you can probably get this thing. Yeah, I mean we're 21 now. You can you can
Get
really
it
butcher it.
yeah.
You can really butcher it if you try. Maybe that's as far as we can go. I'm not sure. I got it to 20. How's that for you?
That's really good, actually. That's a lot better of a result than I was expecting. That's really good.
And that's 3.78 kilos. So it's half the weight of
Mhm.
the ergonomic SVD. I'm interested. I'm interested to see what is the, because I tried at one point. What's the lightest M4 that you can physically make? And you can make some very very light M4s with the wireframey kind of stock. You know, the really terrible stock that no one ever uses. They use it once to make a gunsmith build, and then they never ever use that stock ever again.
Is
There's
it
I
a
can't remember
fixed
what the name
stock?
of it is.
Like it doesn't
Yeah,
accept the
it's one that's not
tube?
even a tube or anything. It just goes straight on the back. It's
Oh,
that funny one. I can't remember what the name of it is. I'm gonna have to find out now. And then I'm going to get out of the modding presets because this is bad. It's the Troy M7A1
oh, the
PDW,
Ergo one. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
Ergo one. Yeah,
Yes.
so that one. But you can make some seriously light M4s as well. You can make them very heavy. You can make them very light. And I was trying to test between the two, but the recoil difference is just not worth it in any sense at that point. You always have to go. You kind of have to go 75% recoil at least and 25 ergo. That's kind of the way
Yeah,
it feels, right?
that's a
So you,
good rule of
you can't
thumb.
go more than 50. 50-50 is too far gone. The recoil is just not worth it. And to make it even worse, 12-12's made it worse because now recoil is more important because
Yeah.
it's so bad. Now you need that recoil. Before you didn't need it, but now
Mhm.
you do need it. So we've changed the way that the early game feels and made semi-auto better and stuff. But now it means that now if you're going to use a full auto build, it has to be full recoil modded or bust. You may as well just use a SR or something.
That's how I feel, yeah.
Mm.
So, quickly, do we have
I
time to
take your
squeeze
point.
in the Scar L?
Yes, let's
We have
squeeze that
time.
in.
Okay.
Yes.
Dude, Scar L slaps.
Yeah.
Period. The thing, oh my god, dude, the thing is so good. So, I saw a video because you talked about it last week unofficially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I saw a video from Abney, dude, which I don't, yeah, you know, but for anyone else listening, you should check him out. He's got some pretty cool content. Someone that has YouTube recommended me, which I'm glad. Um, he did a video on the Scar L, and his sort of consensus was he took an M4 and MDR, the 5.56 MDR, and the Scar L, and he shot them all. They had like very similar stats, and visually slash how it felt to him was that the Scar L felt the best because I think if you were just comparing the M4 to like an MDR or a Scar, and you said, "Hey, the Scar slash MDR feels better," you may say, "Well, that's because it shoots slower, so the recoil feels better." But to him, the Scar felt better than the M4 and the MDR. which was interesting. And yeah, it's I don't know how to say this, but dude, the recoil just goes up. It doesn't go like it's kind of goes to the left and right, but it just goes up. And so you can take a scope and just full auto people from a fairly distant range. Like it feels like old Tarkov. It's just like
Really?
hold down mouse one. Yes. Like if you build a meta sort of meta one, like the one I got is at 50, 53 or 55 recoil vertical.
And it's slow fire rate too, I guess, is the
Right.
thing.
And it's like you have to pull down, but you can if you're crouching, you can maintain your sight picture. If you're standing, you can still I think you still can. Like it's not you gotta I'm telling you guys, you gotta try it for yourself. You have to try it for yourself. I'm not even using the Omega long barrel because I find that the Ergo recoil trade, it's like you get like an extra 2 less recoil, but you lose like 11 points of
After all this
Ergo.
talk about the Ergo and recoil,
I
and then
know,
just straight away being like, "Well, I built this
but
build with the shorter barrel because I think it's worth it." Oh my
but I'm using
goodness, I
it. But
can't believe
I'm
you.
I'm using the scope, so it's slightly different. If I wasn't using the scope, I probably would go max recoil. Damn it.
Okay, all right, all right.
Anyways, have you tried the Scar L Giga?
I actually haven't even used the gun.
Okay.
I'm yet to even use the weapon at all. I haven't even tried it in the firing range. I've never loaded that thing and pulled the trigger at this point. Not ever. Not ever. But you're saying it's good. I have seen a few. I've seen a few things here and there, but that it's decent and that it feels really really nice. So
Mm-hmm.
it's probably worth a go at some point. I think I'm not really using that many ARs in general, to be fair, and I'm almost feeling that I might end up continuing down the DMRE sort of path. I'm looking at going back to the SR. I'm gonna dabble, but maybe I should give this a try. I mean, where the problem is, I either end up playing gosh, I'm going to flagellate myself for Punisher Part 6 again on some open map, or I'm playing Factory where I don't really want it, or I use the MP7, which is the best gun in the whole game.
Right.
But no, I should use it. I should try it. I should play some routine stuff. Maybe I go to do. Do I want to do Vishala guards with it? I can buy 55A1 now from Peacekeeper because I have Peacekeeper 4. So I could do that. And one level off, Ski is really cheap 55A1.
That's probably the key. I mean,
I'm level
yeah.
37, so I'm actually 20k XP off Skier 4, which is good. I mean, I guess you're using 55A1 with this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just because you can get it from Skier for that cheap, I mean, it's just like, yeah, why use anything else?
Is it sold out? Do you know? Is it often sold
Well, it
out from
doesn't
Skier?
matter. You just
You just
get the
wait, yeah.
traders. Yeah. It's like it's the
Uh-huh.
thing. But to answer your question, I don't think it's actually sold out that often. Like peak times here in the East Coast, US, yes, I think. But I try to
But the
get
rest of the
it.
time, not really.
It's one of those things on my shopping list, man. Just like I may not even use 556 for the rest of the wipe, but I will still buy it because when I want to use it, and
You're gonna have so
I've
much.
done all the work to unlock it from the trader, it's like I want to
Yeah.
be able to use the stuff I worked for. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
it's true. I remember I think I finished last wipe with 2,000 rounds of 55A1 or something like that. This is absolutely ridiculous. But I was using M4s all the time. So I was going through quite a lot of it. The end of last wipe, I used M4s constantly. I think it was the wipe before that I was SR25, M61 every raid. But last wipe, I did a lot of M4ing. I really did.
mm.
It was good. It was good. You can get the Scar L to 56. 56 recoil. With 650 RPM, that's pretty good.
But that's the thing is 56 sounds like a lot. This is what led me to doing it was I was using the M4 for
Yeah.
peacekeeping mission. And I tried some cheap M4s, but me, I can't if I hear a gunshot, I have to investigate. Like, most of the time, unless I'm like absolutely full to the brim or have like some quests I've been trying to do over and over, and I got the quest item, then I'll cut my losses. But dude, the thing just shoots it's like you just can't full auto unless they're like absolutely right in front, like your barrel is like touching their tummy, then you have permission to full auto. Otherwise, do not full auto. It's so, and I was like, okay, it's got to be the recoil. This is like a 55, 60 M4. Like it was like
Yeah.
budget friendly parts. Let me crank it up to the nines. I got it down to like 38 recoil or something. And it has like 32 ergo, but like who cares? I'm just gonna full auto them. It still feels awful to full auto. You just like, dude, I was just like trying to like full auto this guy. I just can't do it. So I don't know what it
Yeah.
is, but 38 recoil on an M4 versus a 55, 53 Scar. The Scar feels 4 times better, the full auto. At like,
Interesting.
and it's crazy, dude. It's like it's so noticeable. It's so noticeable.
Very interesting. I'm gonna have to give it a go now. I'm gonna have to try it.
Yes.
I'll have to try it.
Nudge, nudge, nudge. Do it.
Yeah, because you can buy them off the flea, can't you?
Yeah, you can just buy one for free.
Scars. So, because that was, I think, because they got rid of the H's. I don't know, were they blocked at any point? Or maybe they didn't block them. They blocked the MDR, I remember, and then they bought the 5561 back because everyone said, this is silly. What is the point of doing that? No one's ever going to use this gun.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's how it is now.
I think that makes sense. I think that's actually a good way to do it. Like 556 weapons, especially this wipe, they're just not meta at all, are they? So, yeah, you can get a new one for, someone's selling one really cheaply, actually. They're about 50k, it looks like.
50K, and just
Mm.
make sure it has all the parts on there, like the rubber butt pad, the stock, things like this. And then additionally, buy the corresponding barrel you want to use, because it doesn't really make sense to buy a marked up barrel. Like if you want
Yeah,
the longest barrel, make sure you find a Scar that has the longest barrel. It's kind of
yeah,
weird because since there's a black, since there's two different versions, effectively two different guns, a black one and a gray or a FDE 556 one, it kind of like inflates the market in a way. Like I don't know,
because
like you
you've
could,
got two. You have to look across both lines to make it.
right.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird, so like it makes them cheap for that reason, I think. Like that plays into it. I don't know. So anywho, dude, yeah,
interesting.
you gotta
Yeah,
try
that's
it.
cool. That's cool. I'll have to give that a go. Yeah, it's because I've always liked the MDR, and this is a sort
Hmm.
of halfway between. You can't mod out the stock like crazy like you can the M4, but the fire rate's lower, so you get a bit of this, a bit of that. The MDR you can't do anything to really, and so you're stuck at was it 70 base, and then you can get down to about 50, I think, if you put on the big suppressor and
Yeah.
all of the recoil reducing things, but it's kind of crazy. And
Hmm.
then yeah, then the Scar you're going from something more M4 stock like down to 50 or so without going and you don't need to go too mad. We'll see. We'll see. But as people are saying, if it handles nicely and it feels like it handles better than the others, then that could be the thing that does it. Because if it says 50 but it feels like 40 and it's got the lower RPM, then there we
And
go.
I would wager that you really don't need a lot of mods for it because there is no mod. You can't change the stock, which is usually the biggest recoil reduction next to the
Yeah.
muzzle. You can't change the muzzle. So maybe you have to find a good, probably that RC2A, the tan suppressor that goes on the Vortec. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that one's okay. That
It's
one's okay.
okay. It's similar price to the CAC, I think, but it's like slightly
Yeah.
better than the CAC, I want to say. But anyways, I suspect that you could do some very budget friendly modding on that because you really only need to get a decent some free points in ergo, like slightly upgrade the pistol grip and then slap on a RK4, RK5, one of those, and a decent muzzle, and you're probably like in the 70s, maybe mid
Yeah.
60s, be pretty usable.
Have to see. Have to see. And you can always go for something like that Furfran's one, the poor man's jailbreak.
Oh
You can still
yes.
use that. And that's minus 17. So that's actually the same. It's one recoil less than the SF3P and the RC2 together. I have my sheet open so I can see. But you don't lose, well, what's that one? So you lose 17 ergo total for the suppressor combo, but for the Furfrans, you only lose 3. So you get 15 ergo back. And you only lose 1 recoil, which probably is worth the trade-off. Probably is worth the trade-off. But then you can't see because there's a lot of smoke out the front of the gun. But who needs to see the enemy?
Yeah, that's overrated, honestly.
Yeah, you just put the drum in and then just off we go. Not that there's that many people using drums because they're all banned off the flea for 5.56, but never mind.
Yeah. I'm still I have a couple, but I haven't really used them all that much just because the ergo it all really adds up. If you're gonna go for those pure recoil parts and then you slap the drum on, it's like this is really starting to add up. So I don't know.
If you want to go pure recoil and you want to go RK2 and you want to go suppressor, then you can't really go drum.
It's rough.
Then you can't because then it's bad. You're into 0 ergo territory.
Yeah, you really are.
Which ergo's not that important, really, but 0 ergo is a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of, you can't really ADS anytime within the raid as someone's trying to come around the corner.
Yeah.
It's hipfire only. Hipfire only. Like your SA58 hipfire build.
A true classic.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's wrap it there before I start talking about muzzle and suppressors that they added. Okay, I'll stop. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next week.
Catch you later. Bye.